In this quick video, we're going to walk through how to use your new custom garden plan. In part 1, we entered all the details to create our plan. After 24 hours, you should have received an email with all of the details. If you still don't see your plan after 24 hours, check your spam folder. Otherwise, send us an email at hello@organicbackyardgardening and we'll get back to you right away. The first document we're going to open is a garden detail PDF. This is your custom planting schedule. At the top, there are some key details, including your name, email, zip code, location, and your last frost date, and also a legend identifying what the colors mean on the schedule. The furthest column to the left shows each crop. They are color-coded to match the planting map, which we'll talk about later. And the total amount of space you allocated to that crop, how many plants can be planted per square feet, and the total plants that you're going to be planting. A notes column for any special scheduling notes for that crop. Then in the actual schedule, there are 12 weeks before the last frost date. The week of the last frost is indicated with a red bar, and there are 4 weeks after the last frost. Now let's walk through how to read this schedule. Let's look at the first vegetable, kale. Kale is a cold hardy crop. It can be started indoors, and the seedlings can be transplanted out into the garden to get a head start on the growing season. Starting 8 to 10 weeks before the last frost date, there's a green bar, and this is the range in when you can start the seeds indoors by looking at the key, Start Seeds Indoors, for the green color coding. Then, from 3 to 4 weeks before your last expected frost, this is when you can then transplant the seedlings into the garden. They're cold hardy, so they should be okay if there's a light frost. You can see in the key, blue is when we transplant outside. In the notes column, you'll see that it says or direct sow at plant out date. So if you don't want to start these inside and you just want to put the seeds directly into the soil, you can do this ahead of your last frost date at the transplant out date. The advantage to this is it's less work. However, the disadvantage is you won't get that very early crop as you would with the transplants. The schedule is conveniently organized by planting activity, so you can quickly glance at which crops you need to start first. These will be at the top. Looking quickly at the other examples, Swiss chard is fairly similar to kale. However, tomatoes have a plant out date after the last expected frost because they are frost sensitive. The same with peppers. Cucumbers are very similar. However, they don't need to be started until just a couple weeks before planting out, as the cucumber transplants grow fairly quickly. Now, beans and carrots, on the other hand, only have a direct sow indicator. This means these plants do not like to be transplanted. You'll directly sow the seeds in the garden. Carrot seeds are so small, they're always directly sown. You'll sow these ahead of the last frost. Beans, on the other hand, will be sown after the last frost because beans like a warmer soil to germinate. One thing to be cautious about for crops that call for transplanting after the last expected frost, the last frost date that is being used in the schedule is an estimate. Based on historical data, you have a low probability of frost. However, keep an eye on your weather forecast. If there's lows below 32, hold off on transplanting until a little later in the season. Frost will kill these plants. Below the schedule, you'll find instructions as well as a straight to the point getting started guide on how to get your garden up and running with some of our best secrets. Then for each vegetable you selected, there's a detailed growing guide on that crop, including our best variety picks for that crop. Now let's open the second attachment. This is the garden layout PDF. Here you'll find the garden layout that you drew populated with the plant placement. Keep in mind that north is up. Each plant is color-coded to match between the placement and the schedule. Each box represents 1 square foot and there's a notation on how many to plant of each. In this setup, the tallest plants would be cucumbers when trellis, so place these farthest north so they don't shade out the rest of the plants. Second tallest would be tomatoes. We place these below the cucumbers and farthest west so they don't shade out any of the other plants. Then moving on, we have the peppers, 1 per square foot, kale, 1 per square foot. Then we have our Swiss chard, followed by 9 beans per square foot, and the smallest crop would be carrots. Those are the shortest, so we place those the most east and south so they don't get shaded out. These are just our recommendations, and you may modify if you would like. These high density placements allow for maximum yields and save space. In our grow guides, we recommend growing larger vegetables like tomatoes, up a stake, and pumpkin and squash to allow them to sprawl out outside of the garden area to save space. Their two documents are HTML versions of the same documents, an HTML version of the schedule and an HTML version of the plant placement. You may find these easier for printing or viewing. If for whatever reason you're having trouble getting the schedule to print just right, it might be easier to take a screenshot of it and then print that screenshot. Well, that's about it. If you have any questions, send us an email at hello@organicbackyardgardening.com. We're here to help you on your gardening adventure.